All right, I was in Northern Ireland. I arrived there in February of 1984, and I was posted from there in November of 1986. So it's supposed to be a 2-year tour, but I extended for a year, purely because you got paid more money for being in Northern Ireland. Um, and whilst I was out there, the kind of work that we were doing, radar, I did prefer it. Um, that was one of my happier times, work-wise. However, there are certain things that happened in Northern Ireland that were particularly unpleasant, and I can regale some of those for you. Um, one of the classic things was that this one year they had to paint the radar head. So the radar was turned off and we had to paint it with olive green paint. And I and others went up there and they did their turns painting the radar head. And then somebody, and I don't know who it was to this day, turned around and they painted my name on the radar head. And the thing is, even though the background was green and the paint that we were using was green, when it dries, it will show up in plain letters what has been painted on the radar head. So somebody paints my name there, and about a week later, I'm called into the boss's office to explain why I chose to paint my name on the radar head. And I said, well, I didn't. And they were insistent that I did. And I says, well, can you show me where I'm supposed to have done this? And they marched me outside and they pointed to the radar head and said, see, there's your name painted on the radar head. And I looked at that and I says, well, that's interesting. But if I was going to paint my name on the radar head, I know how my name is spelt, and it's not spelt with a G. So, yes. And that was when they realized that, no, it wasn't me, it was other people. And there were many examples of where people had done things to try and paint me in a bad picture. And it wasn't true. There were other times where one time I missed my flight back to Aldergrove. And I was told that if you just phone ahead, because it was a shuttle flight, the transport will wait for you on arrival. And I did just that. And they didn't wait because it was me. So I had to spend the night in the guard room at Aldergrove and catch the mail bus back the next day, which didn't turn up in the morning. It didn't come until the afternoon, which means that by the time I got back to Bishop's Court, I was now late. And I was charged with being absent from place of duty. Yeah, and there are, I can give you a lot of stories. One of the worst ones for me, as I say, I played rugby. And one of the things that happened in this one particular game, I was assaulted by a team member. He pushed me in my back. And he actually says, you know, because I went to catch the ball, I missed it. And as I'm walking away, he'd come up behind me, pushed me in my back and says, next time, use your effing hands. And I turned around and I looked at my team captain, who's just so happened to be my boss at work. And I looked at the rest of my team and I said, well, and nobody said a word. And I looked at the opposition and you could see that they were army and their jaws were on the floor. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. It was horrific. After the game, the opposition, they normally make a tunnel and everybody walks through the tunnel as they go off the field, but the opposition, they stood wide apart, so the whole team went through as one. I didn't want to have anything to do with them, so I was stood at the back. And after they had left the field, then I left the field, and that's when the opposition, they closed up and everybody shook my hand. And I'll never forget that, because they didn't even come to the bar afterwards. They just went on their bus and left, which was quite unheard of.